What's going on, sci-fi fans? My name is Ben and welcome back to the bench for a brand new episode here on Sci-Fi Wednesdays. We'll be starting a brand new build series here going forward, and I'm actually pretty excited to go ahead and give this one a shot. Now, as you saw from the thumbnail, this isn't one of the kits that I talked about in my stash update. I really wanted to go ahead and build something a little bit different, so I've actually chosen to build this right here. This is a 1/72nd scale X-Wing fighter. This is the T-70 version from Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. So I'm sure as you've noticed, this is actually a very different looking paint job. And the reason for that is this is kind of a personalized paint job for a pilot in lore that is named Snap Wexley. And I don't know much about the pilot. I do know that I like this color scheme. I like the green and the white. And I think this is going to be a really fun kind of paint job to try. I know Poe Dameron's has orange instead of that green, which I also have, but I just kind of felt like I wanted to go with the green version. So I think this should be kind of fun. Now, the kit itself, of course, is Bandai. So we know we're going to have really nice fitting parts. And already right here in the poly bags, they look great. Parts look nice and crisp, very clean detailed. We have 3 different poly bags, as you can see here. Of course, we have a full complement of decals, which is really, really nice. Most of the parts are molded in color. And of course, we have stickers as well for those of people who don't really want to mess with decals. We have a base, which can be connected in multiple different ways to other Star Wars kits by Bandai. And I think overall, these are great, very, very fun kits to build. They go together well. It's a really nice looking model. It is smaller though. It's 1/72nd scale, so it's not like it's going to be a huge model to have in the stash. It's manageable, it's buildable, and I know this is going to be a fun project to go ahead and get involved with. Now, of course, the instructions themselves, being Bandai, should be laid out in a very clear and concise manner. I don't have any doubts that this is going to be a very simple build. I can already tell we start off here with the different parts and pieces in the wings, and we move over to the fuselage, build up the cockpit. We have a lot of little steps here and there, but it's nice the fact that Bandai shows you in kind of a grayed out area the exact section that you're building. So you know kind of how it's all going together, and it really kind of holds your hand and walks you through a lot of the steps. All the way down here to the cockpit, how the cockpit goes together. We're given a couple of options, such as a windowed and a windowless canopy frame, so that's kind of nice. We also have wings open, wings closed. Depending on how you like that, we've got our own astrometric droid, which is always cool. And of course, we have options in terms of landing gears folded or landing gears extended. I'm probably going to go ahead and fold the landing gears up and maybe throw it on the stand, or maybe something a little bit different. I have a couple of ideas up my sleeve. Now, those of you who followed my AT-ST build should recognize at least 2 of these objects. What we have here, a 3-volt battery pack. We've got a couple of different colored LEDs, and these are small little micro LEDs, and these should be kind of fun to go ahead and play around with. This pack here is what we used on the Raider AT-ST for the lights behind each of the eyes. That's that bright white, but these here are actually kind of a purplish violet color, because if you look on into the references, most of the T-70 X-Wing engines glow in like an almost violet color. Very different from the red color from the original trilogy. So I went ahead and I picked up these, and I got 25 of these for hardly any money whatsoever. And I used them on my Raider AT-ST build, same brand. They worked great. So I decided to go ahead and just roll the dice again and see if they worked well in this application. So I thought we'd go ahead and take one out. Let's test the color and see what it looks like. Let me grab my battery pack and we're going to twist it together. And once we just have a real quick connection, let's go ahead and hit that switch. Oh yeah, look at that. So that's pretty close to the color that I wanted, and I was thinking there was going to be kind of a pinkish violet type color. I think that's going to work perfectly. Let's also get a little low light shot. See how these will work in a darker setting. It's still pretty bright. I love the color, so that's going to work beautifully. Very pleased. I think this is going to be a really, really fun little project. Now that we have kind of the ideas of what lights we're going to be using, at least for the engines, I want to go ahead and try to figure out how we're going to actually do that. The reason I went with these little SMDs is because, well, they're small, and this is a small model. And these are actually designed to run directly off of a 3-volt battery pack, which is what we have here, without any resistors or anything like that. So I'm not going to burn out my lights, and I'm assuming that we're going to be able to run 4 of those. I ran 3 from the AT-ST, so I'm going to add 1 more, and we're going to see how we do. Now, looking at the instructions themselves, I've been trying to map out how exactly we're going to get these LEDs into these engines, and the parts are actually pretty small. Here is a close-up of the wing. As you can see, we do have 2 openings where these engines are going to plug in, and I don't think it would be that difficult to go ahead and poke a small hole in the very back of this and feed the wire into this little cavity right here. And this is the same on both the green and the white portions of the wings. So all we need to do is get the wires into this little cavity, bring them directly across down that joint into the fuselage. I think that's going to be a smart way to go ahead and do it. Now, each engine is capped off with basically a little engine cone, and there's really good detail inside of these engines, and I want to go ahead and try to preserve that as much as I possibly can. The nice thing about these little SMDs is that they fit directly right up inside there without any trouble whatsoever. So all we have to do is poke a hole right in the center, and make that large enough so that we can bury the LED a little bit farther back from that opening. Hopefully it'll just kind of glow and emit the light right through that center opening. So I need to figure out how to go ahead and open that up without destroying the detail around the edges. And then once I kind of figure that out, they will just press fit right into these little extensions, and then we can slide that LED through that extension and then just cap it off right there behind this little engine cone, and I think we'll be good to go. So we'll have to do this 4 times, but if we can get that down, shouldn't be too difficult to go through with the other 3. So just off camera, I went ahead and I went through all of my different drill bits, and I found a size that works pretty decently to go ahead and punch through the very center of that engine cone. I also took a 3.5mm punch and I punched out a circle of clear plasticard. Now my thought is maybe if I go ahead, diffuse the light just a little bit, bury that LED a little bit farther back from that engine cone, when I flip it on, I'm hoping that it's going to go ahead and just kind of illuminate. So I've dropped my disc right in there. Let's go ahead and put that LED, just kind of hold it up there and see what it looks like. Flip that on. Very interesting. I like the look of that. That looks pretty cool. But you can see obviously the plastic is a little thinner, so we might have to come in and overcoat that with some thicker paint just so we don't have a lot of light leaks or weird light issues. We're going to play around with it and we're going to learn by doing, which is how I usually like to operate. Like I said, the drill bit that I found fits perfectly right in the back of these engine cones, and I like how that looks. It's clean, it's neat, it just punches right through the center of that. I'm not really too worried about losing any sort of center detail. I just want to make sure that I keep the outer detail for each of these engine cones. And this just, like I said, drops right into place. No hassle. Give it a couple of twists, pop that center section out. I can drop in any sort of diffuser that I need, rig up the lights, and it should have a very cool looking kind of a glowing violet color. That's what I'm going for. What we actually accomplish and what we're planning may end up being 2 separate things, but that's at least the direction I'm trying to go. Now, one other thought I did have is what if I tried to light the cockpit? I think one of the main issues I might run into is just lack of space, but if I'm running these smaller SMDs, they might actually work. I'm not sure yet. I'll have to kind of play around with it. But as you can see, there is actually some room up there. Go ahead and shine maybe a light around the pilot footwell. That might actually work. Or maybe I can kind of retrofit that screen to kind of glow or something. I don't know. We're going to kind of play with it. I'm afraid it'll have to kind of unfold as we move through the project. But for the most part, I think this has enough room in it so that we can probably go ahead and string those lights from the engine, maybe from the cockpit as well, and feed them down through a central location, maybe through a pipe or some sort of a tube that we can find or maybe we'll buy. And then that will go into a base, and I'm hoping to go ahead and have kind of a cool little effect on it. I don't know quite how it's going to work, but we do have a little bit of room in here to work with, especially in the center section of the fuselage. So we might be able to kind of pick and choose where we might want our stand to go. And then all we have to do is get a tube that will accommodate our wires and just go ahead and drill a hole and mount that up inside. Otherwise, I don't think it's going to be that difficult to go ahead and get this mounted to a base. If I decide not to use the included stand, I'll just plug off that opening and just run it and see what happens, you know? Now, for the base itself, I wanted to try to do something that I've never done before and something that's going to be kind of interesting to try. And that is actually having a backlit halo effect around a symbol. And what better symbol to go ahead and use than the Rebel Alliance symbol? Pick this up online. It's actually for a car, but I'm not going to use it for that. I'm going to go ahead and attempt to use this as some form of a template or a backlit object. So what I thought I might want to do is actually create a base with one switch to control the LEDs for the X-Wing and another switch to control a backlit symbol right on the top of my base. I have no idea how that would work, but I'm kind of interested in learning and see if I can't accomplish something like that. That would be really super sweet. And I might want to actually remove this bright chrome mirror finish and maybe airbrush it with kind of a red color, like you see on the Rebel Alliance symbol from the movies. I might have to talk to a couple of you car guys to figure out how to strip off chrome plating. But overall, I think this is going to be a really entertaining little build. I don't think it'll be as complicated as the Raider AT-ST, but I think still it's going to be a lot of fun to go ahead and try to add in a couple more LEDs and try to get something to look kind of interesting. And again, this color scheme is super nice. I love the green and the white and the gray and the little red contrast here and there. I think this is going to be a really fun project. Plus, I'm very excited to go ahead and give it a try. This is Bandai, so I don't think we'll have too many surprises. I think things will go together very, very well. But if I can light those engines and if I can light the cockpit, that would be amazing. I would have a lot of fun trying that. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to give it a shot. Also, real quick, let me go ahead and give a big shout out to my buddy Drago for giving me the idea of building this X-Wing. I didn't know they made a version like this, and he just sent me an image. So thank you, Drago, for the suggestion. But anyway, everybody, thank you so much for joining us today on this episode of Sci-Fi Wednesdays. We'll be back next week for episode number 2, where we're going to get into some of the nuts and bolts and see if we can't figure out how this project's going to come together. So until then, you guys know the drill. Go out there and get yourself some bench time, have some fun, build something cool. And we'll see you back here on episode number 2 for Snap Wexley's T-70 X-Wing on Sci-Fi Wednesdays. Thanks so much, everybody, and we'll see you soon.